good, you're here. Welcome to the Masterminding Success podcast. They say if you want to be successful in business and in life, then surround yourself with successful people. So pull up a seat. The mastermind is about to begin.
Hey, glad you could join us for another episode of the Masterminding Success podcast. We're your host, Keith Wheeler.
And Nuria Colby.
And what are we talking about today, Nuria?
Today we're going to talk about It's Not About You. So that's another interesting topic. And I'm not quite sure from which angle we should start this off, Keith. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. We were just talking about before the episode. I was like, I don't know how long we could talk about this. And you brought up some really good angles that I hadn't thought of. But yeah, I mean, obviously we're talking about business and many times people in their business are running into issues that, they're not getting enough customers, or maybe the clientele that they're getting isn't what they were expecting, whether it's the type or the actual, the volume that they're getting. And the very first thing I always ask them is, what was the point, because it's not about you. And so it's usually the very first thing I say to people. And that usually has them open their eyes and be like, oh, okay, it's not about me. All right.
It's really funny you should say that, because I was reading a Facebook post earlier. It's a group for female entrepreneurs. And a lady was saying, I want to start a business. I've got so many ideas. Ideas are coming to me, but I need to start something without any money, without any investment. What can I start? And I thought to myself, wow, that's the wrong way to approach this, because it's not about you. It's not about your ideas and your business. It's about your target, your audience, your customers. Are those ideas something that people need or want even? Because I've got lots of ideas, but a lot of them, I know they're not going to really make the light of day, because I know there's no interest in them. There might be a little bit of interest, but not a lot. So you really have to look at your business and think, is this a viable business? How can I help people? How can I be of service to people? And that's how a business then takes off, because then obviously people are interested and it's useful for them. So if it's about you and about what you want and about what you want to create and put out there, that's the wrong way round, in my opinion. I think you really need to see, it's about them and see what they want and what they're looking for. Don't you think?
I do. And, and don't get me wrong, we're not saying that you shouldn't do something that you enjoy, especially, you're doing this as a side hustle or whatever. You don't want it to be a grind that you don't like. That's just one more job at that point. So, but there's a happy medium. I've run into people like what you were talking about, who they say, what can I do that's going to make me a lot of money? And or how much money can I make doing this? And if you're thinking about the money right off the bat, again, it's not about you. It's about those, your end customers. And, I've found so many times that, if you have the right mindset going in, that and your target is focused on the end user, whoever's going to be, buying that product or using whatever you're creating, that's when the money comes, because I've seen people, we talk about books a lot on this channel and in the, this podcast, but so many times people will they had a great idea for a children's book, great idea for it. Nobody's buying it. And it breaks my heart, because I know, I write children's books too, so I know how much passion goes into it. And if you want to create something, a book, whatever, as a passion project, that's fine. But it goes back to what we talked about before, which is setting expectations, So you need to know that if you did it for yourself, that's fine. Or you did it for your kids, you did it for your grandkids, that's fine. But don't be surprised when the sales don't come, when the success that you're hoping for doesn't come. And so it's not until you think about them, you think about your target audience, that you're going to see the success, because you're going to be able to tweak your business, or completely. Sometimes you got to pivot completely, because what you created was, again, it was a passion project, You wanted to be a published author, you wanted to get this children's book out. Great, you've done it. Congratulations, pat yourself on the back. There's nothing wrong with that. But again, if the reason you did it is here and your expectations are here, that's when you're gonna feel like you failed, and you haven't failed. You were two different targets. Your reasoning and for doing it and what you expected were two different things. Yeah. And you were doing it for two different reasons. You were creating it for you. So but you're expecting people to buy it as if you created it for them, And so, I mean, people are very, in general, very tight with their money, especially nowadays. And so if they're not going to buy something just because you wanted to create it, they're going to buy something that they have a need or a desire for. And so that's why you really have to kind of keep that mindset that it's not about you.
You've just summed it up beautifully, really, in a nutshell. And, that's so true. If you want to create, like the example you gave was perfect, the children's books. If you want to create something that you're passionate about, go ahead and do it, because that's what life is all about. But if you're thinking about it as a way to make money, then you have to approach it slightly differently. I think the people who can combine both, who are passionate about something that makes them money, they've got the best of both worlds. Right. They're very, very lucky, I would say. And it's not impossible, because I always think, when I think about my target audience, who is my target audience? I've always found that very difficult in previous businesses when I had the jewelry business, because I don't use much jewelry. I'm not into jewelry. I kind of found it really hard to think of who my target audience was. Whereas now, my target audience is people like me. So I'm kind of mirroring my own life in my target audience. And whatever I create now is something that would have been helpful to me when I first started. So I think if you can combine a business that way, then it can be about you. Then it can be,
right.
But again, it's not totally about you as well.
I was just going to say, do you only create things that you want? Do you just come up with an idea and say, ooh, this sounds like a great idea, and then you create it? Or do you do research and make sure that there's actually an audience for that?
Exactly. The audience has to be there for it. So it's, like I said, I mean, people are very lucky when they can combine both, but it's not always that easy. And sometimes you can start a business that you're not really that excited about, and it can work because you've done your research and you've made it about somebody else and not so much about you. But it's one of those things. I think one of the angles I thought about before we started the podcast, we were talking about it, and I think I said, why shouldn't it be about you?
Right.
And I think that's one good way of looking at it, because it should be about your customer. It should be about what they need or what they want. There's different types of businesses. Some businesses, they kind of fill a gap where there's a need, and some are not that people need the thing, but there is there's a value to what you're giving them. Could be entertaining, could be, luxury goods are not something people need, but there is a market for them. So it just depends how you look at it, and it's definitely, an advantage if it can be about you as well. But the whole thing is not about you at all. It's about your customers. So, and I think I found that out the hard way, really, because the first businesses, not all businesses, but I think the ones that didn't do too well were coming from my point of view rather than from a need. I was very successful with my language school because that wasn't coming from me. That was a need that I was fulfilling. So, and even now, I think I'm fulfilling a need now with the things that I create now. So that's obviously working better for me than the jewelry business did, even though that did well as well, but not to the extent where I could scale it. That's the other thing. Right. You can scale a business better when it's all about your customers and not about you at all.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Because you know, it's one thing that, you know, we kind of briefly talked about is finding what is relevant to them by doing research and you know, in order to find success, one of the things that I always suggest is finding something that that there is a need for, but that there's not a lot of competition. Can you still be successful if there's a lot of competition? Absolutely. But then you end up spending more time or money on things like marketing and promotion and things that most people don't enjoy. You know, so I do think that you know, obviously it's really important to find a need or a desire for something. And one reason why I think it really has to be about them is because when you learn more about your user, you learn not only what they need, but you learn why they need it, how they want it, and that kind of stuff. And that is great to use in the marketing promotion that nobody likes to do, you know, because then you can speak to those points. And it's kind of like those commercials. I remember, you know, when I was younger, you know, I'd see these commercials and you'd have this narrator and they're asking you, you know, do you this? And every time they ask a question, you're like, yes. Yeah. That's what you want your customer to say when they're, you know, when they're reading a marketing thing that you've done or an ad or something like that. You want them to know, because it all comes down to know, like, and trust. People buy from someone that they know, like, and trust. Well, if they don't know you yet, then they not necessarily like you, but if you are basically in their head, like, you know what they want because you focused on them, you focused on, you know, it's not about you, it's about them, then they feel like you know them, then they immediately trust you.
yeah.
You know, and because they feel, okay, this guy gets me or this girl gets me. So, you know, it definitely helps your business.
Definitely. And I think what you just said is it's all about connection, really, finding a connection with somebody, because it's you know, you can apply this to business, but you can also apply this to social media or influencers. And then, you know, who are the ones you follow and why do you follow them? I think in many cases it's because you have a connection with them. There's something that they're providing that you're interested in, or that you find interesting, or that you can make use of. And if it's like an entertainment channel, you might think, well, there's no need for that, but there is, because they might be providing something that just makes people happy when they look, or it provides validation of something that they're dealing with, and they like to see it happening to other people as well, or you know, they can relate to that. So it's all about relatability and making connections. And I think that's why it's so important as a business to really keep your customers connected to you and talk to them and find out what they need and what they want. And it makes it more enjoyable, I find, as well, to have that connection and to be able to know what your customers need and want. And again, it's not about you then, it's about them. They might think that it's about you, or other people might think it's about you. And it's not really. It's about what you can help them with and what they need from you. And that brings out the help in you. So it could be anybody. I don't want to steer away people from my channel. Please keep watching me. But it could be just somebody else that provides the same need, that fulfills the same need. So, you know, it's really about them, not us, or not the business in itself. It's the customers that matter, really.
Right. And a perfect example is what we're doing with this podcast. You know, we've said on numerous episodes, you know, let us know ideas that you have, and we have created, you know, episodes completely based on suggestions that we've got from, you know, people who have emailed us or people who've commented on the YouTube channel. And so, you know, it, again, because we're making this not about us, you know, it's about, you know, the listeners or the viewers if it's on the YouTube channel. And yeah, and I agree, when it comes to YouTube, I do the same thing. You know, I tell people, you know, especially if it comes to something, you know, business oriented, I'm like, don't just listen to me. You know, I don't even conceive the fact that I am the know all end all of everything. You know, I don't know everything. I'm always learning in this business, which is why I love the business.
Yeah.
And I think if I stop learning is when I'll stop doing it. But, you know, so I always say, hey, check out other channels or whatever. Keep subscribing to mine, but check out other channels and I love when they give me feedback on a video and they'll say, have you looked into this that so-and-so did? And I'm like, no, that's a great idea. And then I'll go watch somebody else's videos. And, you know, it's kind of helping the community as a whole. But one good way to kind of keep in touch with your already existing customers is through an email list, which we can do a whole nother, episode on. But again, it keeps you in line with focusing on the end user. And when you do make it about them and not about you, not only do you have a much better chance of getting customers in the beginning with, but if they feel like you understand them and that you care about them and that you have them in the forefront, then you have a much better chance of getting repeat customers.
Absolutely.
Which, I mean, that's what it's all about, right? The occasional customer is great, but it's that repeat customer that the moment you come up with something new is going to buy it. The moment you make a change, they'll be the first one to tell you whether it was good or not. You know, those are the people that are, invaluable to your business.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And even the people that are in your industry, they're not your customers, they're your competitors maybe, but even it's about them as well rather than about you, because what they do is important as well, because that affects your business, So I like to look at my competition as as people in the same business. I don't see it as competition because in some ways I try to be different, and then it's not about them either. It's about their customers as well.
Right.
So it's all connected, but it's never about us. It's never
Right.
about the business owner. It's never, if you're thinking of starting a business, it really isn't about you, as harsh as that sounds, but it's about everything else, all the infrastructure around you, the connections that you build, and they can be with customers or with competitors. It all affects your business more than you can affect your business. Obviously, you affect your business as well, but that is all involved as well. So yeah, it really is a matter of, it's not about you, it's about everything else, really.
Really? Yeah. No, I agree. And I know I talked earlier about children's books and I don't want it to come off as a deterrent where I'm saying you shouldn't do children's books or something like that. No, what I'm saying is you should do research and find out what types of children's books or what types of whatever you want to create, is there a need for it? And then you find out, oh yeah, there is a need for it. Okay. And then if you want to put your own spin on it, is there a need for that? And that's when you can dial your business in a lot more. And to be honest, there's times when you can find something that, your research tells you, well, there's not really a need for this, and you can still make it successful. It just takes more work. It takes more marketing. It takes more, letting people know why they need you and they just don't know it yet, that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
Whereas if it's something that they know already that they need or that they're interested in, it just makes it so much easier.
It really does. You just hit on something really interesting and important. And a lot of big companies, they produce stuff where there wasn't a need to begin with, but they created a need. With their marketing and with their, with their promotions. And that's really clever how they do that. But, that's big companies can do that. But smaller businesses, it's really important to do your research. And coming back to what I said at the beginning about this lady on the Facebook group asking, what business should I start that doesn't require any investment? And I've got so many ideas. And I was really happy to see that people were replying in that sense. They were saying, of all of your ideas, which ones have you researched? Which ones have you looked into? What's your target audience like? And it didn't look like she had done her research, because from the way she was replying, it wasn't really something she had thought of. So I'm glad that she got those people supporting her in her vision of creating a business, but also giving her really good advice on how to do that, because I think that's important.
Yeah, and really, she's really lucky that she was able to ask a question like that in a community like that, basically before she's learned the hard way that it's not about you. She was able to learn before she even started, and so that's something that's pretty invaluable in and of itself. But yeah, when you were talking about people creating things that there wasn't a need for, all I think of, and this was a little bit before me, but people had pet rocks. Okay, can we just acknowledge that people had pet rocks?
Did they?
Oh yeah, here in the States, that was a huge thing in I think it was the 70s, where they were literally rocks, just like a rock from outside, and it was like it was a huge fat phenomenon, And I'm like, people were making money selling rocks, So again, it comes, but then the downside to that is because there wasn't really a need for that. As soon as they stopped marketing it, as soon as, they stopped promoting it, whatever, nobody needs a pet rock anymore, And so that's just kind of a funny throwback. But
that's a great example.
Yeah, but it's like, so again, it's not a deterrent saying that, your business can't be successful, whatever your business is. But to me, at least what I consider a successful business is, for one, it's less about the money. It's more about the customers, so it's about them, so that you have happy customers, but also it's the amount of effort that I have to put into it compared to what I get back. I've got a lot of ideas that I can make successful, but I'd have to put way more work into it than I think it's worth, And so, especially when there are other things that I could do that I research and I know that there's a niche for, and, that there's, customers that are hungry for that, have a need for that, have a desire for that I can fulfill with a lot less effort on my end, and a lot less, whether, money and, time and whatever it is important to you as far as your effort.
Yeah.
So
Totally
again, it's not a deterrent that, whatever you're doing right now, because I don't want people to think, oh, well, I didn't do my research and I've got this business and now it's going to go down. No, but, first thing I would say is start doing research now. It's not, especially if you're not seeing success that you wanted, see if maybe you unintentionally made it about you and not about the customer, or maybe you don't have a complete understanding of your customers. Also, people change, depending on how, in books, I tell people, I always check my keywords. If I start seeing my sales going down, over, a decent amount of time, at least once a year, I'll recheck my keywords and I'll see, maybe people don't search for this type of book this way anymore. They're not using this terminology anymore.
Yes.
Because everyday slang and everything else comes into your, the way you search for things, whether you're doing it intentionally or not. And so, again, if your business is not doing as well as you wanted it to, or as much as you think it should, because hopefully, even if you did make it about you, hopefully you at least know enough about the industry that you're in to know what it should be doing, what a company of your size or a business of your size should be doing. If it's not accomplishing that, then go back and do a little bit of research after the fact, and you can kind of pivot your business a little bit, or sometimes completely 180 if you have to make it about them in the end, make it about your customer. Yeah. And your customers will appreciate you for it.
Definitely. I totally agree. Yeah, that was a good point you made earlier as well. But yeah, no, I didn't know about pet rocks. That's amazing.
Yeah, you should. Yeah, you'll need to do a search on it.
I will.
Yeah, look it up, because it was either the 60s or 70s. I don't know. My parents tell me about it.
I was a kid in the 70s, and I remember it vividly, all the things that were in I remember toys that aren't allowed anymore because they're dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything's dangerous now.
No, that's true. Apart from watching YouTube.
Yeah, exactly. And listening to podcasts. Yeah.
That's it.
Well, this has been another great Mastermind area. Once again, a huge thank you to all our listeners and viewers who came to tag along. If you enjoyed today's Mastermind, please consider following or subscribing to the podcast and maybe even leaving us a review. It'd mean the world to us. Until next week, I'm Keith Wheeler.
And I'm Nuria Colby.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
All right, you got to look up.
Thanks for joining the Mastermind today. Be sure to follow the podcast on your platform of choice and tell a friend who would enjoy it too. Your support is greatly appreciated. This has been the Masterminding Success Podcast.